Hey, what is going on YouTube? East Tactics here. And you know, I just had a quick idea and I thought I would make a video because actually I've been meaning to do an update video regarding the shock, the dual shock spring experiment. I'm not sure if you've seen my past videos. I've got a playlist called the Dual Shock Springs Experiment that I started quite a few months ago, and the need for the experiment came about because I was basically doing a lot of bashing at skate parks. And I mean, every single time my vehicle would come down and hit the concrete, I would just cringe because I was getting a lot of, you know, really hard chassis slap on the ground. I knew that, you know, when I bought the Arrma vehicle, and everybody's always said that chassis slap is 100% normal and to be expected. However, when I started breaking my fans, you know, especially at skate parks, like I broke the stock ESC fan in here, and then I broke my servo, I was like, you know what, chassis slap might be, you know, something that is expected, but it doesn't have to be so rigorous or so hard because it's damaging our electronics, and it's, you know, just ultimately bad on the vehicle in general. And if there's a way to kind of get rid of it to some degree, especially when you're bashing at like a skate park, or if you're hitting some huge air at like a BMX park where the ground is really hard and compact, you know, we just want to protect our electronics, and we also want to just protect the vehicle overall, right? So I went in and I put 2 springs on all 4 of my shocks. And you can see here in previous videos, earlier renditions of this project, I actually had 2 of the stock shock springs on all 4 of my shocks. And I really liked it because it was super stiff. It made it to where I could drop my vehicle from a much higher height. I created a video just kind of like this, I called it the drop test, and I was just experimenting with the different height levels for which the vehicle could be dropped from, you know, from the ground at my hip height, or from, you know, the height of my knees, and seeing where it hit the ground or the chassis slapped against the ground. And I was finding that because I had, you know, these extreme dual springs in, that I was able to you know, relieve some of the impact to the body because of these springs. Another reason why I went in the route of you know, basically wanting to beefing up my springs and just to make my shocks a lot more stronger was I have added a lot of weight to my vehicle. All of us do, especially when we start implementing like the M2C chassis. We start getting aluminum shock towers, aluminum diff houses, tower braces, aluminum servo mounts, you know, aluminum, the actual chassis braces themselves, and then of course getting bigger tires, the springs themselves, and then the body. I've recently added quite a bit of weight to my body because of the Rhino lining project. These pads add a little bit of weight. Just overall, I actually took a look the other day at my poster. The stock body weight for the Arrma Creighton is actually 10.67 pounds. And that's without a battery, of course, but just stock, it's 10.67 pounds. Well, I've since added 3 pounds. My vehicle now weighs, I've added 3.5 pounds to my vehicle after I weighed it, since I've gotten it. 3.5 pounds. I mean, you're also talking about the battery that I use to run my fans, and my fans themselves are obviously bigger. I mean, the heatsink and the ESC fan alone are not even part of the stock loadout. So yeah, all of us, we kind of add a lot of weight to our vehicle, even the wheelie bar. So 3.5 pounds of weight is going to completely change the dynamic of what the stock manufacturers intended for this vehicle, to absorb shock and to basically perform and prevent damage and breakage and all those things, right? So that's why I started the shock experiment. And now, just, you know, as you can see, I don't have dual springs on my shocks right now. I've got 1 spring. This spring is actually from the Arrma Nero Big Rock RC car. It's a huge heavy duty spring, and I'm like, dang, I would much rather have one spring than have 2 springs per shock. So I went ahead and picked them up, and it turns out that their stiffness is actually equal, very close to having 2 springs, but you don't have to worry about having the binding that I was getting. It was mild binding, but it wasn't ideal. So I went ahead and transitioned to these. Now, in the front, those springs work great because the front shocks are a little bit shorter than your back ones, but on the rear ones, because there's only one size length for these thick shock springs, my collar is screwed down quite a bit more to accommodate for that. So my collar in the rear is about, I don't know, I'd say 1 inch, and my collar in the front is about, I don't know, about 1/2 inch. So anyway, so I put these on, and the next part of the project was to ultimately figure out a way to tame these shock springs, because I was finding, because the shocks were so stiff, especially when I hadn't done anything to the fluids, I hadn't done anything to the pistons inside the shocks, and I hadn't incorporated these M2C shock caps, I was finding that it was really bouncy. Like if I was like zipping across a park, you know, on the grass, the front end was just bobbling up and down, and you know, it was kind of it definitely hampered the performance. And so I'm like, okay, so now I've got to investigate how am I going to kind of tame these shocks and get it to where it's not so bouncy. I went through a bunch of different things, and I ended up thickening the shock weight. I put custom pistons in, where I took the blank pistons that come from stock of the Arrma. They have like a baggie of the pistons, and some of them were blank. So I drilled my own holes in the pistons. I put less holes. I wanted to shrink in the size, and then I also started messing around with the thickness of the shock fluid. I had to go up in thickness a ton. I actually had to end up going up to 5,000 weight diff fluid. So I'm not even using shock fluid anymore. I'm using differential fluid, 5,000 K diff fluid. So all 4 of my shocks now have that, and then I put that in there, and I still felt like it was a little bit bouncy. It was better, but it was still quite a bit bouncy. So then I'm like, all right, I've heard a lot of good things about these M2C shock caps, and so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and buy those, because they're supposed to eliminate the rebound, or they're supposed to dampen the rebound based on the technology behind how they were manufactured. So I dropped a video on installing these M2C zero emulsion shock caps, and after I installed them, I was like, I noticed a significant improvement to the bounce, to the point that I felt like the bounce is right back to where it used to be. It's back in the day when I was running stock pistons 100% from the factory, I felt like I was bouncing when I hit the ground. You know, off of a jump, I'd come up, and I'd definitely, sometimes I'd flip the vehicle over, so the bounce was obviously existent. Now though, the bounce is no worse, and in fact, on many jumps, I think on my most recent bash, I had a couple of jumps where I'm like, dang, that was smooth as butter when it hit the ground. Oh, that was cush. There was no bounce. So I've ultimately found that 5,000 CST differential fluid, and combining that with the M2C shock caps with these Nero shock springs, Big Rock shock springs, have basically made it to where the 3.5 pounds that I've added to my vehicle can be accommodated for, and now the vehicle is performing as a basher. Granted, it may not have the plush performance of a racer if I was like trying to hit the tracks and like, you know, cut in and out of corners and do those things like that, but that's okay. I bought this vehicle because I want to be able to launch it off jumps, and I want to be able to, you know, beeline it toward the next huge air. So that's why I'm loving this setup, and I've been running it ever since, and I'm extremely happy with it. So what I want to do today now is show you the drop distance that I get now when I drop the vehicle from height, from about hip height. We'll do it from a couple of different levels, and you'll see how much bounce I'm actually getting. And I'm gonna be making a bash video here real soon, now that spring's here, the weather's beautiful. And one of the things I just want you to take note of in my future videos is just, you know, when I'm getting big air, how much bounce there is. And yeah, I do think it is important that if you want to fully get these things to where the bounce is mitigated, that you've got to use the M2C shock caps, because they definitely made a huge improvement. All right, so let's do some drop tests. And I've basically got everything in my vehicle. I've got my batteries in, I've got my fan battery in, everything. This is going to be exactly what I'll be running if I were to go out and rip this right now. So one of the things I'd actually like to see is what the drop distance is from stock before you start seeing chassis slap for like the Arrma EXB, for a stock Arrma Creighton, or even the V5 with like the new A-arms and the way that they've got the shock set up. I'm going to put my email address down in the description of this video. If you guys, would like to see your video in my next video, basically doing a further update on this whole concept, send me an email with a short clip of you doing this drop test that I'm going to do right now, and so I can see what height you can drop your RC from, as far as from your hip or from your knees or whatever the distance is, before you see chassis slap happen. And then also we'll get a good idea from your videos that land in my inbox as to like the bounce, because I know that the bounce from stock is probably non-existent, it's a beautiful plush landing, hits the ground, and there's zero bounce. With mine, we're probably going to see about a 1-inch bounce, and I'm pretty sure the bounce doesn't get any worse than 1 inch, but we'll see. So how about we make this a little bit more incentivized? Whoever sends me an email with a video of them doing this drop test will be entered in a giveaway for the mod compilation box. Check this video if you want to know the details, and go ahead and send it my way. There should be a lot less people that are doing it, so their chances are going to be a lot higher, and I will announce the winner on my next video, which could be in a couple of days or it could be in a week. Anyway, so submit them to the email in the description, and I'll make a video showcasing the details. All right, so the first drop, I know that my tires are 6 inches tall, so I'm gonna put it at, we'll do the first one at 25 inches. See if we get chassis slap at 25 inches. No, I'm gonna do 20 inches first. No chassis slap at 20 inches. All right, let's try 25 inches. All right, I'm good. Let's try 25 inches one more time. All right, I did hear the front end barely hit the ground. Chassis slap at 25 inches. Okay, 24 inches for my vehicle with its current loadout, and I get no chassis slap at 24 inches. All right, now we're gonna drop the nose first and see if we can go a little bit higher. I believe you can. So I'm gonna start at 30 inches for me. That means I'll put the top of my tire at 36, and we'll drop the front end first. No chassis slap. All right, so let's try 33 inches. I don't think I had chassis slap at 33 inches. Now let's do the rear end. Let's try 35 inches. 35 is gonna be 41. Okay, 41. Rear end first. No chassis slap at 35 inches. Let's try 36 inches, which will be 42. Rear end first. I think I did barely hit. So 35 inches for the rear end first. Now I'm going to drop it to where the side of the tires hit first. So left side. We're going to go at 40 inches first. Absolutely no chassis slap at all. Let me try, the max height that my ruler goes is basically 41 inches. So 41 inches. No chassis slap when dropping on the left side. I assume the same thing's gonna happen if I try to drop on the right side. Let's just go 47 inches, chest height, dropping left side first. So anyway, repeat that test for me in a video. The ultimate goal, whether or not you guys want to participate in the giveaway, is just to see that with this shock setup, I can have 3.5 pounds added to my vehicle. And let's just do, this is going to be a straight drop. There's going to be a ton of chassis slap, but I want to see how much bounce there is literally at chest height. Here we go. How much bounce did you see there? Very minimum, right? Here we go. All right, so that chassis slap, in my opinion, wasn't that bad. And this is on concrete. So this is why I did it. And honestly, I've been extremely happy with it. And from what I guess, when I dropped it from 47 inches, the bounce was still about an inch or so, which honestly, that is great. So I'd like to see some videos from you guys doing this exact test with your stock setup. And if you've done anything with your shocks, mention what you do or what you did, and then do your drop test so we can get a good comparison of like how the shocks are working with different loadouts. If you've done the Nero shock springs like me and you've taken my advice, let's see your drop test. Let's see how well you do, how little or loud your chassis slap is. And if you've got the M2C shock caps, if you don't have them, let's just see some videos. And then what I'll do is I'll make a little compilation video. In your email to me, if you want to say, let's say you have a channel and you want me to plug your channel, I'll plug your channel and put a little link or whatever so that people can click over and see your videos. Anyway, happy to do that. So, all right guys, that pretty much wraps up this video. Thanks for checking me out. East Tactics, out. Real quick, I thought it would be cool to check to just, see how the fans are doing, since shock mitigation is a big thing for me. Dropping it that many times from, chest height and slightly below that on concrete is a good test for durability. And so I just want to make sure both my fans are still running, even though they weren't spinning while this test was in place. So let's do a quick check. Let's make sure both my fans are happy. Yep, look good. I mean, you can see the shock absorption is in place here. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this update video, and I will catch you guys on the next one. East Tactics, out.